Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corn Productions. My co-host Stacie here to talk about The Sinner, Season 4, Episode 7, titled Part 7. The episode's description reads as follows. Unsure whom to trust, Ambrose hunts down his pursuers. The episode was written for television by Mia Chung and directed by Batan Silva. This is his second of two efforts on the series. The other one was the prior episode. And the episode originally aired on November 24th, 2021. Before going further, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, this is not a spoiler-free podcast. If you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms this podcast is now available on, please subscribe. You can also head over to my YouTube channel, Corn Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, as well as subscribing to our channel, and hit the bell so that you actually get notified when new content drops.
All right.
All right, so shout-outs this week. Ashley Wright. In reference to two people speaking a different language than English, for instance, he says he saw an episode of Kojak years ago on British TV. It turns out Telly Savalas' real-life brother was in the cast as a fellow officer. There was an episode where their unit was being tracked by or followed by the FBI or other such unit. At some point during the episode, Telly Savalas realizes their phone has been bugged. Just when the brother brings up Kojak's office, and the pair start speaking in Greek on the basis of the FBI listening, and some might know some Spanish and mainly English, but that's about it.
Okay.
Also, in regards to the comment about how everybody appeared on Law and Order, there was a television serial in the UK called Casualty, which apparently was sometime in the 80s. And this had basically all of the British or the UK actors.
So a similar situation.
Yes, absolutely. And then we got a shout out for Reid Price this week.
Yes, Reid Price, Detective Brooks himself.
Yes.
Also known as Rob the bartender on From, and no, Tom the bartender on From, and Rob Shandon on Sullivan's Crossing.
I'm glad you did that this week and not me.
I know, right? Sometimes I mess up. Oh, speaking of Sullivan's Crossing, before I do a proper shout out for Reid, Sullivan's Crossing has been picked up for season 3.
Yes, and hopefully
super amazing news.
Yes, hopefully we actually get to watch that as long as it ends up
season 2 finale just aired in Canada.
Yes.
And we are eagerly awaiting season 2 here in the States.
Absolutely.
And we can't wait to cover that. But they're going to start filming season 3 this summer. So, like, soon.
Yeah, that's good news.
Which is amazing. They're jumping right in. Okay, so Reid told me he listened to our episode 6 podcast for The Sinner while watching the Blue Jays on TV. And he says, I will quote from him, "Nice work. Side note, it was so cool working with Scott McCord on The Sinner and on From. We had some nice chats on the set that day on The Sinner."
Yes.
And that day meaning a scene from this episode that we're talking about right now.
Yes. Yep. And we will provide the excerpt from our interview from last year in which Reid Price actually talks about appearing on The Sinner and working with Bill Pullman specifically. Also, we got a special treat. We got Reid Price with Bill Pullman in a picture that he authorized us to use.
Yeah, and talked about during that interview, taking of that photo.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so that's all some cool stuff that you have to look forward to. Actually, when I talk about, we're going to do that right now.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so we're going to pause, and then when you come back, we can get into this thing.
All right.
Yeah, the last 3 episodes, I played Detective Brooks.
Detective Brooks, he was like a suit that was brought in from Portland to come oversee the investigation.
Come clean this mess up, and I was an adversary to the lead detective, and got to do some really, really cool stuff with Bill Pullman. Man, what a beauty of a person he is too. Getting to work with him was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very curious what it was like working with Bill Pullman, because he was actually a favorite character actor of mine.
Oh, cool, man. Cool. Talk about so I have to admit, and it's a little bit embarrassing, but I own it. But as an actor, I'm terrible with actors' names and knowing where people are from. I'm like a video game guy first and foremost, and then with the acting world, I'll recognize a face, but then the names I don't know. So I looked up Bill Pullman, and then of course you look at what he's done. You're like, oh no shit. Well, you in the Independence Day and Casper and so much good stuff over the years, and him on set was so cool. So God, I tell you, Bill Pullman and Harold Perrineau, look, I haven't worked with too many awesome names, very experienced, talented, wonderful people, but that's got to be the top echelon of really salt of the earth, just beauty people inside and out. So I consider myself very lucky to have those experiences back to back. And Bill, man, I was in. So remember, I'm showing up, and we all got that actor anxiety, whether we admit it or not, but we keep it quelled. And I'm in the makeup trailer trying to be personable and be myself best I can and relax. And Bill walks up while I'm getting makeup on, and he looks at me, and he's got a look, right? He does it in the show, and he's like, "You Reid, right? Playing Brooks, yeah, man. Welcome to the big machine, Reid. Welcome to the big machine." And he sits down beside me, he gets his makeup on, and from that moment on, we had wonderful conversation, and all of his energy was about making sure I was informed and making sure I was comfortable. So he's letting me know everything works. And then when we were on set later, he was walking me around, and he's like, "Oh, come here, let me show you here." And then down the street, there's the food truck. Let's go see the food truck. And he brings me up, and he's like, "Hey, Colin, this is Reid. He's playing Detective Brooks." And he's showing me the truck, and he's like, "See, we got peanuts here, and we got Ritz crackers, we got soup there, and if you want the jelly beans, we got that there. We got everything here, man." And I'm like, "Holy smokes, you're the nicest guy on the planet." And then we film our first scene, and they finish on my coverage, and thank God it went really well. And we were at a interrogation type setup, and at the end of that particular scene, Bill's character walks away, and so I'm left by myself for a second. And so when the director yells cut, he yells cut, turn around, which you always want to hear, turn it around. We got that particular angle, that particular shot, turn it around. And I remember having a moment with myself being like, okay, yeah. And I looked up and I looked over, and Bill was right there, like 20 feet away. And he was looking at me. He just goes, "Yeah, man, yeah." And I was like, "Yeah." And we just had a kind of silent cheers. And it wasn't because I was not expected to do well. It was just good damn energy, man. Fun, good. Man, that man was working his ass off and still had that energy to give me that positivity. And I'll remember that forever. It was a really nice moment. And then
That's awesome.
by the end, it really is so cool. By the end, I had the guts to ask him for a photo, and I was like, it's my last take. I get a picture with you before the days. Do you mind, man? Do you mind? I really don't do that. And he said, yeah. He's like, "Let's do it right now. Let's do it right now." He's leading me outside, finding the right lighting and the right spot. And somebody grabbed the camera and snapped some pictures with us. I'm like, "Man, you're so nice. What a beauty. Just a beauty person." So I'm glad I had the opportunity to talk about how great Bill was. I probably ran on a little bit, but
Oh, no. It's great. It's great to hear.
Yeah, to be like that, help you settle in, means the world. It means the world. Yeah, so good.
Speaking of which, you actually shared a scene with your From co-star Scotty McCord.
Oh yeah, talk about
Did you actually meet him during the Sinner?
Yes, I did. Now Scotty's one of the nicest people I've ever met, and he's just like, when people got great hearts, and this is just a beautiful person inside and out. I did get to meet Scott on The Sinner, and Victor quickly on From is probably my favorite character. As soon as I saw him walking into the woods, that one scene with little Ethan, when he's like, I don't know, they had to explore something, and he had this gait and this walk, and he was kind of bow-legged, and I looked at that choice, and I said, "This guy's good, man." And it wasn't even his speaking, right? It was how he carries himself. And I have a 3D animation background, and we talk a lot about, when we were learning about how postures, everything. You can change so much about how somebody is perceived based on their posture, hunching their shoulders forward, putting it straight up, or how their arms dangled. And I saw the choices he made there with the character, and I said, "I love this guy." And then empathy grew for Victor right away, and his character has really grown and become more and more intriguing. And Scotty is crushing it. I wanted to say that because it means a lot to me. That's the moments when I'm a real big fan of the show too, And I did see him on the set of The Sinner, and it was a scene where he was in the kitchen, and spoilers coming. He was shot in the kitchen, and I have to make an arrest on the lead detective, and We actually didn't work together within the scene, even though we were all in the same world within those shots. But we got to chat outside a lot, and that was my first time really chatting with Scott. And what a nice guy, man. I said, I hear you're doing a great job on From, because my girlfriend works on From, and she gets to talk to a lot of the actors every day, of course, her doing makeup. And Scotty's just such a salt of the earth beauty. And she had told me in passing, like, Scotty's so great. He's so great. He's looking forward to seeing you on set of The Sinner. And I said, oh, he is? That's nice. And then when I talking to him, I'm like, I could tell that was genuine. It's so nice. We had such a nice little chat. And I said, I hear you're doing great on From. He's like, oh, it's awesome, man. It's great to hear. And, you know, we talked actor talk. I won't reel too much, but it's about choices we make and how we want to do and how we want to do them great and figuring it out and all that stuff. And it was really nice, insightful conversation. So getting to talk with Scott, and just me being in a position to be working on 2 big shows was cool enough. And then to see a guy like Scott on both sets was like, man, we're doing good, bud.
You know who else popped up on The Sinner, which I noticed recently when I was reviewing the episodes for this interview, is I also happened to see the guy who played Reggie on From, like Scott Bay. I was totally surprised. I didn't recognize him until
you messed up the first letter of each word. Now I'm gonna mess it up. Zach Fay.
Zach Fay. Yeah,
that's awesome. Scott Bay. That's almost a baseball player's name. Yeah, Zach Fay.
Yeah, I do have a tendency to do that.
That's why it's got to be in the notes.
Right.
If it's not in the notes.
I'm actually surprised I didn't refer to you as Tom
You did.
5 times. Did I do that?
When we first opened, before we started recording, you said, hi, Tom. That was your first word.
Yeah, I'm good for that. I thought I'd do that at least 10 times during this interview.
Man, no problem. I embody Tom. I feel like I'm Tom sometimes, so I don't mind at
all. So going back to Tom.
Oh, wait one second. I wanna
Sure.
I want to say a moment how great Zach Fay is, and that role he did in The Sinner, which he did so great, because it's a bit of a reveal what his character is. More spoilers, and I've worked with him before on a movie called Donner Dad the Tractor, and I got to know him just a little bit, and you get to meet his kid, and he's a great guy.
Okay, welcome back, guys. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We did. All right. So
and if you've watched that 6 times, I'm sorry.
Yes. All right. So, Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode?
All right. So we're finally there, right? We're rolling up into the end of this series, not just the season even,
right.
But this is the end of.
This is the penultimate episode
of the entire thing.
Yeah.
So this episode, we're mostly dealing with everything going on Valerie.
Mm-hmm.
So we finally learn exactly what that's all about and how Percy was involved in that. And we really kind of see our final turn between Harry and Meg.
Yes. So now they're not friends again.
They're not friends again.
Well, they start off as friends, but by the end of the episode, they're gonna be she's gonna be threatening him.
Yeah. So we only have one more to go, which I'm super excited about, getting finally to the bones of this. But this is a big part of it we learned in this episode. So as I said last week, the pace has really picked up, and it continues to snowball that way throughout this episode. And some good stuff.
Yeah.
We only have 2 new characters that pop in this episode that we don't already know. The characters of Hal and a paramedic are our only new faces we see.
Hal, is that the guy who does the fake IDs?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, anything else before just diving into this thing?
Let's go.
All right. So, the episode begins with Harry being patched up by Meg. They're still friends in her bedroom. I think it's her bedroom anyway.
There's somewhere in her house.
Yes. Harry doesn't think it's a good idea for him being there because the thugs will still be looking for him.
Yeah, he thinks they're going to show up here.
And Harry says bad things are happening at the boatyard. He has some similar speculation as to what you did last week.
Yeah, he specifically suggested prostitution or pornography.
Right.
And Meg's kind of dismissive of all this.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I don't think you should worry about this.
Right. Meg's phone rings from Colin, and Harry says not to answer it. And Meg is really confused as to why not. Sean, by this point, is actually in the room. So it's not like it's a secret that he's here. Meg says that the man to look into is Don Lanier, not her sons.
Yeah, she's starting to realize, right?
Yeah.
That, maybe there's something that I don't know.
Right. Harry gets suspicious of Meg, who ends up giving her his keys and a gun, despite the fact that
You said that backwards.
What did I just say?
You said he gives her his keys
and
gun.
Yeah, other way around.
Other way around. Meg gives Harry her car keys and her gun.
And that's despite the fact that he won't acknowledge that he's not going to go after her sons. She points out that she didn't have to save him, and Harry takes off. As Meg watches him go from the window, Sean tells Meg that there's something she needs to know, and this is where she learns the truth, though we do not get to see this.
Right. But clearly, yeah, he's filling her in on the part she didn't know, because she realizes at this point, oh wait, there's something I don't know. Something is going on, and she's getting into protective mode, and he's about to tell her the full rundown of what the heck they're doing and why she should stop sending Harry after people.
Right. But she never seems to learn that lesson. And I mean, I guess she does by the end of this episode, but still. So Harry goes to Raskin and tells him what happened. He wants to bring in Brooks, but Harry argues against that, saying that we shouldn't include so many people in this thing.
Yeah, and Raskin also is defensive of Don Lanier. He's like, he couldn't possibly be a part of this.
Right. And, Raskin continues to be useless, though by the next episode he will sort of stop being so useless. Because he's just dismissive of things, without really actually thinking about anything. He says it doesn't make any sense. And that's because he's not thinking about it at all. He's just like, I know Don Lanier, he doesn't seem like a bad guy, so there's no way this works. Right. Basically.
He also tells Harry they have DNA indicating that Mike Lamb killed Brandon. And then he's like, it's classified, I can't tell you this, but let me tell you this.
Right.
He does a really bad job at
everything?
Yeah, everything. So he tells Harry that the DNA was found on Brandon's gloves, which were found in the helm of the boat. Now, remember, Harry's the one who checked the boat himself, and those gloves were not there.
So now Harry's suspicious of the police department in general, and does not want
be.
And he does not want to file a report about the incident with those two thugs. Harry goes to the Golden Corral.
The Golden Fish.
Golden Fish? Why did they get the Golden Corral?
Well, I don't think they have that there.
No, probably not. And finds CJ and his mother arguing. He tells them he's no longer working with the police and about what's going on exactly. Mike saw Brandon on the boat with people as he was checking the traps to make sure they weren't cut. And he saw a group of people moving from Brandon's boat to another one. And Harry realizes that this was part of the smuggling operation. He asks about fake IDs, and his mother knows of someone and points him in the right direction.
Yeah, because specifically, she knows somebody who makes fake IDs because CJ's uncle needed some papers when he came to town. So CJ's learning that his family has secrets. This was a shock to him. What do you mean? My uncle's undocumented? I didn't know that.
Well, if he doesn't like this secret.
Exactly. He's very slowly learning, and we're running out of time for it to happen slow, so it's going to happen really quick next episode, but there are things you don't know. Your parents are capable of keeping secrets. Right.
So he finds his shop and finds files on the computer, and one of them is locked until he hears someone enter the shop, and that would be who again?
His name is Hal, and Hal is played by Oren Dash. Among his credits is one episode of Digstown, which is one of those ones that pop up all the time in our Nova Scotian friends IMDb pages. Yep. And Harry's hiding in this place. He was snooping around on the computer. His first instinct here is to pull a gun on this man. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if this was the best way to go about it. Maybe you should have tried, I don't know, talking to him first and seeing if he was cooperative.
Right. I guess he didn't want to take any chances. Plus, it's the, second to last episode, so he doesn't really have time.
He just goes from hiding to pulling a gun and telling this dude, I need you to open this locked file now. Right. He could have just asked him. Right. I mean, it might not have worked, but you could have tried.
I'm pretty sure he probably wouldn't have revealed the answer, but still, you do have a point there. So he has the guy sit down, unlock the file, and of course it's a picture of all the people that have been smuggled and had their IDs taken.
It's the photos that are being used for the fake IDs. Harry mentions the boat. Now, this guy has no idea who Harry is or what he wants, why he's here, right? Because Harry hasn't told him anything. Nope. Harry mentions the boatyard, and Hal thinks that girl told him about it.
Which is when we learn that Percy has also been here talking to this guy.
Yes, investigating. And we see this in flashback.
Yeah. And she's looking for a specific girl. I'm pretty sure the same one.
Yep, this is Celia that we met last episode.
Yep. And he doesn't know where they go. He doesn't really know any information whatsoever to tell her. And in the future, or present day rather, he's reluctant to say to Harry what he knows because they will come after him and kill his family, essentially.
What we learned during that flashback is that Celia is missing.
Mm-hmm.
Her brother has been looking for her. Her brother, who lives in Portland, has been looking for her. So what happened? So the basic setup is Celia paid $10,000 to be transported to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So all these people that are being smuggled, like, they're not kidnapped. They're paying to do this, right? They're trying to sneak into Canada. And they're promised jobs. They're promised, that these people they're paying are going to help them set up new lives, right? But something's wrong because this girl went missing.
Yeah.
So the question is, what happened to her? Percy is pursuing this girl for her brother. And I'm not sure how Percy got in touch with the brother. They didn't explain that to us. But somehow Percy and the brother ended up, meeting up. And now she's looking for this girl on her behalf because she says there's something more happening to these people, right?
Yeah.
It's not as simple as they're helping them illegally. But something bad is happening on top of that because this girl's literally missing and she didn't make it to Canada.
So, the dude ends up describing a boat that he saw people get taken away in, and Harry ends up calling Em about it, basically, and she tells him that her house was broken into.
Yeah, she was just about to call him, which is interesting.
Yes.
Her house was broken into last night. It was trash. She's scared to go home. The boat sounds familiar to her.
Yeah,
and the boat is black with a red stripe, and she knows exactly what boat it is, but she needed to go to the office to find out whose boat it was, because she doesn't remember.
She specifically calls it the Old Black Island Skip, which I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, there was boat words.
Right,
I didn't write them down.
Yes.
But she knew what she was talking about. And he's like, I don't know if you say so. It was black.
Right. So, Harry waits for her at the office. He's looking around nervously. He sees some people. He's thinking they're going to, try to kill him.
Yeah, he's very suspicious of everybody at this point, and I don't blame him.
Right. And Em ends up showing up, and crucially, these guys that he's so worried about don't turn out to be anybody. Em looks up the boat, and they find the boat belongs to a Vern Novak. That name should sound familiar.
Vern Novak, who's 52 years old, and he lives on one of the Gifford Islands.
Mm-hmm.
Vern, of course, played by Scott McCord, who we first saw last week, but he didn't have a name yet. So that's Vern, Scott McCord.
Harry borrows a boat, planning to go and find Vern himself, despite Em's objections. Em says that he's driven by guilt and ego, and you know what? She's right. She's absolutely right about both of these things. And I think Harry knows that she's right about both of these things, but crucially, he doesn't care. Yeah,
she does everything she can to talk him out of it, but there's no convincing him. He's going to this island. She's like, let's call Raskin, at least wait for some backup. You can't go there by yourself. If this is the dude that beats you up, he will kill you. Right. Why are you going on a boat by yourself to his house on a private island? Seems like a bad idea.
It does, but it's perfectly in line with Harry's character.
Yeah, because at this point, he doesn't care.
No.
He doesn't care about anything but solving this case.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he cares about. He doesn't care if he dies.
Right. So as he travels, Hallucination Percy drives with him. No idea why. We don't get any insight into that.
They don't talk, but she's on the boat.
Right. So he gets on shore and finds a house. He's about to call Sonia.
He sees the boat, by the way. The black boat with the red stripe is there.
Yeah, and he's about to call Sonia, but Hallucination Percy suggests that he's doing it for the last time, and maybe, it might be what he wants, but it would just scare Sonia.
Right. Basically, he thinks he's about to die, and he wants to call her to say goodbye. And, the part of his brain that is Percy is telling him that's a bad idea.
Right.
You don't want to do that to her.
Right. So Harry spies Meg leaving Novak's house and getting on a boat to leave. So crucially, he knows that Meg is involved with
and Vern sees Meg off. He puts her on her boat. Does he not see Harry's boat at this point?
I'm kind of curious about that.
Because, there's his boat, Doc. There's Meg's boat. Harry wouldn't have known, that boat doesn't belong there. But he should know that Harry's boat doesn't belong there.
Right. Yes. You would think so. But I guess not. Or maybe he just doesn't care. Harry goes into the house and finds Novak cooking a breakfast.
On the way, he sees the red raincoat.
Oh, yes.
Confirming that this is definitely the right dude, right? And he also sees a locker full of guns.
Mm-hmm.
So we're definitely in a dangerous situation.
He points a gun at Novak and Novak says he didn't think he'd get there so soon. He was clearly tipped off by Meg. Meg was arguing to let Harry leave the island unharmed if he would drop the matter, but Novak is basically like, I don't see that happening. Now, what does he mean by that exactly? Does he think that Harry is not going to leave and therefore there's no deal to make?
I think so. I think he's like, clearly you're not ready to give this up.
Right.
So you're going to force me to, do something about it.
So in other words, Vern, if Harry had agreed to leave, would have let Harry go.
Yeah, I think if Harry hadn't shown up at his house, he wouldn't have gone looking for him again.
Right. Gotcha. So, yeah. But Vern...
So it's a very tense scene.
Right.
Between Bill Pullman and
love
Scott
it.
McCord.
Yeah.
Again, that's Victor from in a very different role. I love seeing his versatility playing Vern.
Yep. He insinuates that he has a source at the police department, and eventually Vern tries to go for a gun and Harry shoots him.
Yeah, so Harry's got a gun on him the whole time. They're talking about this steak, right? Like anybody cares about the steak, but
right.
There's a gun on the counter under a dish rag.
Which we don't see. We just see the dish rag, but it's like highlighted several times. So we know something's up with that dish rag.
So Vern reaches for that gun, and Harry is, he's been a cop for a long time. He knows what's up.
Right.
He picked just the right moment, and he shoots him.
And so Harry wonders, as he's laying there, or really sitting there with a bullet wound in his chest, if he also killed Percy, but Novak insists that she jumped off a cliff, that he saw it happen. Interesting that Vern knows this.
I mean, I think the whole town
right
kind of knows that Harry's been here investigating this. He hasn't exactly been quiet about his investigation, and it's a small town.
Right. Harry calls Raskin and tells him that Novak has been shot, and gives him the address, and then just straight up hangs up. Novak reveals that that the night she died, she went to the police. Percy specifically went to the police.
Right, which is news to Harry.
Yep. So Brooks with Raskin arrives.
And a whole team of cops and a paramedic. This is the paramedic played by David Light. He has some line here, apparently. David Light was in one episode of Moonshine and an episode of King and Pawn with Reid Price.
And I think I just recently discovered a way to watch King and Pawn, thanks to Reid Price himself.
Yeah, it is, or at least season 1 of King and Pawn is now on the Trailer Park Boys, I think, what's it called? Swear Net?
Something. I would have to go back.
They have their own streaming service, which, King and Pawn season 1 is now on, so we're going to have to look into that.
So Harry points at a gun that he believes Novak used to shoot Brandon, and Brooks just looks kind of annoyed at Harry, and handcuffs him, and Harry's like, go ahead.
Yeah. So Harry puts himself in the handcuff position. He knows that's coming. He's not going to argue his way out of it. He just shot somebody.
He's not on duty. He's not a cop at this point.
Right.
Yeah. So
but he presents Vern. He's like, well, there's Brandon's killer, and there's the gun he killed him with. Here's everything you need.
Right. So Harry ends up interrogated by Brooks, and of course Raskin is there. Brooks doesn't believe his theory about I forgot what the theory was exactly.
What now?
There was a theory that Harry had that Raskin told him about, and I can't remember what the theory was.
Well, they're kind of resisting the fact that Vern's the killer at all. So Harry's whole thing is like, I solved the case for you guys. Here's everything, and they're just kind of like, nah. We're not. We're going after Mike. We got DNA.
Yeah, Harry recognizes the tactics that Brooks uses and says he doesn't want to do that because he doesn't, have time to waste.
And I'm also going to point out that they said Vern's pressing charges.
Right.
So you were wrong. Vern did not die.
No, he didn't die. Did I say that in this episode?
Last week you said that.
Yeah, no, he's very much alive. We just don't see him again.
Right. I mean, he was wounded, but it wasn't. It was not fatal.
Right. He says the smuggling operation has been going on for a while, and it's hard to believe that no one has noticed, with a very pointed look at Raskin.
Yeah, Harry's very accusative towards the police in general at this point. He doesn't know who among the police is the bad guy. He's suspecting it's Raskin himself, which, of course, he's feeling betrayed by that. I'm
pretty certain that Raskin could not pull something like that off because he is quite dumb.
He is quite dumb, but Harry's realizing something's up. Somebody's done something, and are you really that dumb that you didn't know? Right. No, but he very much is that dumb. But Harry says he will want to check out Novak's phone to discover who the nervous people who are that he's been calling.
And Raskin asks to talk to Harry alone. Brooks obliges. Raskin tells him that he needs to stop doing what he's doing. Harry suggests that maybe Raskin was the one planting evidence.
Yeah, because Raskin's like, nobody's planting evidence. You're basically like, you're delusional.
Right.
And he's like, no, like, I'm positive at this point.
Mhm.
The evidence was not there.
Right.
It was not there when me and you were the ones on that boat.
Right. He asks who was on duty the night that Percy came to the police station to talk to the police. Raskin doesn't answer and says he needs to get a lawyer and leaves the room.
Now, remember, Raskin has never heard this before.
Mhm.
He has no idea that Percy came to the station.
Right. So, leaving Harry alone, he grabs the phone, or Harry does, and then walks out the exit. That was
Yeah, he just
interestingly
walks
easy.
out the back door with Vern's phone. Now, arguably, you are ruining that evidence by tampering with it.
Yes, yeah, but he wants to verify. He doesn't
He
care
doesn't
about
care
that.
about the legal end of it.
He just wants to solve the case.
He wants
That's
to
it.
know for
Yeah.
himself. He doesn't. I don't even think he cares if people get justice. He just wants to know.
Right. So
So he's hiding behind some trash cans outside.
Josh inside realizes that he's gone, and then they all start going to look for him.
Yeah, all the cops kind of scatter.
They don't do a very good job of, not or about even trying to find Harry because he's right there.
Yeah.
I can see him, so it's pretty obvious where he is. But
So he goes through the phone. Harry's going through Vern's phone. He sees a number that repeats a lot.
Yes.
That's not saved in the phone. So he calls that number.
And it turns out to be Officer Josh, played by Zach Bay.
Yeah, also of From fame.
Yes.
So this is our very, very From episode.
Mhm.
This one.
And the last one, because neither Zach Bay nor Scott McCord will appear in the series again.
Yeah. Josh's phone rings.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when he looks at the table and realizes Vern's phone is missing. So he knows Josh
Yes.
knows exactly what's happening now.
Yep. Brooks gives Raskin some crap for Harry's escape, and Raskin is barely acknowledging him. He's like, well, this is what we got. And then Raskin asks a very nervous Josh about if he had seen Percy on his ship that night. All right, so I mentioned before that Zach Bay's role in the series completely did not register for me,
Mm-hmm.
especially the first half.
Yeah.
But seeing it again, it's fun watching his character in this series. But
now
also,
that we knew to watch it.
right. Also, Zach Bay is really good in these scenes.
Yeah, he did an amazing job in this series.
This man does not lack for talent. He definitely deserves bigger and more roles, for sure.
We should try to get Zach on our show.
I'm sure we could.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Reid, if you're listening, tell Zach to contact us. So Raskin knows that Josh was the one on duty that night, but he didn't tell Harry that. But now he's asking Josh, like, she didn't come here, right?
Right, yeah.
Like, he doesn't want this to be true. He doesn't want his office to be corrupt. He doesn't want any of his friends to be the bad guy, right?
Right.
He wants all of this to be in Harry's head because that'll just be easier for him.
Yes.
But I think he's starting to realize, like, oh, wait, maybe I should be looking at this a little harder.
So we see a flashback, and Percy does indeed come to the station and ends up talking to Josh, and she outlines this entire smuggling plot.
Yeah, she comes there and says she needs to talk to Raskin. It's late at night.
Yeah.
He's not there. Josh is the only person on duty. And he asks about the gash on her head. So this is after her incident with CJ at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And she breaks down and tells him, like, okay, here's what's happening. People are being trafficked. Brandon's involved with it and some other people. And I think Don Lanier, she mentions his name. And she's like, I got to talk to Raskin.
Right.
And, Percy really messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you should have come back in the morning when Raskin was here.
Mm-hmm.
When more than one person was here.
Right, to witness this conversation.
Right, because I get that, like, you feel like you can trust the police, but this really doesn't feel like the type of thing you should be telling one single person, any single person.
Mm-hmm.
This is something you should be telling to the open police station full of people.
It's possible. I mean, have we previously established that there's any kind of relationship between Percy and Josh?
I don't.
It's possible
so.
that she thought that he was a person that she could trust. She turned out to be very, very wrong.
She was very wrong, but she knew. Like, she was like, no, I got to talk to Lou.
Right.
Like, she knew he was who she needed to talk to.
she's not thinking rationally
She
here.
she definitely should have been like, let me come back in the morning. Nothing's
Right.
going to change between now and the morning.
Right.
But we also know she's like done.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
She's running out of steam.
So
She's over herself.
what's interesting to me is that Percy is really no different from Harry.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
She is practically the same character at this point. I mean, not exactly, but basically.
So Josh makes a phone call, and he's like, okay, I told Raskin. He said for us to meet him at his house.
Right.
Seems a little sketch.
Right. Yep.
But they get into Josh's car, and he's driving Percy. She very soon realizes he is not headed to Raskin's house.
Right. And she starts panicking and freaking out.
Yeah, she realizes she made a mistake.
Yep. And Josh ends up taking him to her family, and we see Colin and Sean come out, who it is very much confirmed at this point that they are involved in the smuggling operation.
Yeah, and they tell Percy they need to talk to her. So we're going to have another off-camera scene of them telling somebody what's up.
Right.
So at this point, they tell Percy, we don't see it, but they tell Percy, and I think that's the last straw for her.
So, yeah, I mean, basically, it's the last straw because she believes that this whole exposing the smuggling operation thing is her route to salvation.
Right.
It's her route to make up for her sins against what happens in the next episode.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it leads her straight back to her family.
Right, because remember, she's been trying over and over again to come to terms with what she's done in her past.
Right.
And what her family has been involved with, and the whole situation that we'll learn about in episode 8. And she tried, turning to Colin for religion. She tried turning to the natural spiritualism thing with
whatever
M.
that is. Yes.
And she abandoned that, right? She ran off on M.
Because ultimately she couldn't face her demons. The one that actually matters.
And, she was dealing with her father and with her grandma and all of these people. And everybody was failing her and everything was failing her. And she was dealing with the guilt she felt about CJ and the things she's done to him. And then she learned all about Valerie.
Right.
And she knows all of this stuff now. She's been investigating it. She's, like you said, she's been trying to redeem herself in some way. She wants to help this woman, Celia, and anybody else who's being mistreated on their paths, right? And she thinks that she's found a way to do that. She's uncovered it. She knows Brandon, who she's in love with,
right,
did it.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, I'm going to turn everybody in, and I'm going to be the hero, and this is going to make me feel better.
Yes.
And now she realized it's not.
There is no path to salvation.
There's no one to tell because everybody's in on it, including her family. They have failed her again.
Yes.
And it'll be very soon after this conversation that she goes and jumps off a cliff.
Yeah.
Because she has nothing left. She has nowhere to turn. No one to help her.
Right.
Which is just so sad.
Unfortunately, I mean, Harry was right there. He could have helped expose
I know
all this.
she met him today. Maybe she should have seeked him out.
Yes.
Sought him out. There's the word.
Did he reveal in that scene that he was a retired cop?
I don't know. Probably not.
Probably not, yeah.
Probably not. But, he was there on the cliff. I wish she would have just turned around and talked to him and been like, hey, I got something to tell you. And we'd have a very different story. They could have investigated it together this whole time, and he could have helped her.
That'd be a great what-if series.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we cut to Harry, who's knocking on Meg's door. He tells her what he knows, but unfortunately by this point, Meg knows everything too as well.
So he tells her that he saw her at Vern's today. He's basically accusing her of being part of it all along and playing him this whole time. And she says, I just met Vern today.
Right. This was news to her. She learned all about what's going on today.
Right. And she admits it to him. She's like, yep, I know. And without saying so, he's like, your kids are in on it. And she's like, yeah, I know my kids are in on it.
So she says he needs to let this go. She's trying to save what she has left. He thinks that this could have been what drove her to do what she did. I'm pretty sure he's correct on that.
It's definitely a part of it. Now, he doesn't know about the episode 8 stuff yet.
Right, yes.
So he thinks this is the whole reason.
Right.
Which Meg knows, at least she should know, that's not really true.
But he also knows that someone else died. He asks, who was it?
Yeah, he remembers that question came up.
Right. And Meg bluntly says he's not safe there anymore. And I'm not sure if she's directly threatening him.
Right. Is this a threat or a warning?
Right. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Yeah, if he stays, he's not safe. And that's where the episode ends.
And it ends on a scene of him. He's holding that star, the star from Colin's ship, which relate to the events of episode 8, that has Valerie written on the back of it, which is all about the events of episode 7. And he's squeezing it in his hand the same way that Percy did.
So
the night that she gave up on M.
So the night that she gave up on M, she did not know yet about what Valerie actually signified. She hadn't written that on the stone yet.
She hadn't written it yet.
Yeah,
so she brought that artifact there specifically to signify what happened on Colin's boat.
Right.
That we, as an audience don't know yet. And it was some point after she gave up on M that she wrote Valerie on the back of it. Now, I'm not sure where that fits in with her Valerie investigation, because I think this was like very soon before she killed herself.
Right.
So I think she already knew some of it, and then maybe I'm not sure exactly how the timeline fits, but it was some point after she left M that she wrote it on there, incorporated, everything that happened on Valerie to her whole pile of artifacts, right?
Right.
Instead of adding a new artifact, she just wrote that name on this one. So she basically is equally feeling guilty over the thing about the star and having the knowledge of everything about Valerie that all of her people are involved with, even though she wasn't directly involved with it. Everybody she knows and loves was.
So interesting that while she kind of gave up on the whole M thing because she couldn't confront what she had actually done,
right,
that she's still sort of continuing with it.
She is, yeah, because she laid out all the artifacts before jumping. Like, this was her way of, by herself, giving herself to nature.
Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. All right, so we got one more episode to go. And
one
that would be
more episode.
The season and series finale of the show.
Yes.
Whether we continue with this series or not, somewhere down the line, I don't know. There is talks of a revival from the creator. I don't know how serious.
There?
I don't know how serious that is, but he says he would like to do it.
Oh, well, maybe our podcast will help.
Yes, maybe, perhaps.
I wouldn't mind seeing what's next for Harry.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why they couldn't just pick up the story somewhere down the line.
Right.
I mean, it's not like it's a singular story every single time.
Yeah.
So if Bill Pullman is interested, then why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Right. He could have another I'm not a cop, but I'm a cop story.
Yeah, and that would make, the Sinner actually relevant again, and then, maybe we would cover season 1 again.
Yeah.
We still might do it for shits and giggles. But...
So in episode 8,
yes,
we are meeting a new actor, Donald Hang.
Yes.
Who's playing a character important to the overall story that we will finally meet in episode 8.
Yep.
And following the release of that episode, we have an interview with Donald.
Yep.
That we'll be releasing sometime next week. And we talk all about his role in The Sinner, as well as all sorts of other great things that he has done. Yes. And
there's already an interview with him on our channel. You can go and check that out as well if you want to see his conversation about his new movie Sight. But if you're just looking forward to that interview, it'll probably be like the day after that interview drops. The day after we drop episode 8. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's amazing. So definitely come back for that. And if you're following along as we go, give us a comment. I want to know, how did this story unravel for you? Mm-hmm. Did you know what was going on? Or even, if you watched this a long time ago, tell us, do you remember, how did this story play out for you? Mm-hmm. Was it predictable? Right. Did you have any big, what's the word? Was it a big surprise for you? Mm-hmm. There was a word I was looking for, but I lost it. So this is your last chance, really, to get a shout out for this season. Yes. So tell us all of your thoughts in the comments on this video about the entire season and how the story played out, so that we can shout them out during episode 8, because it'll probably be our last time talking about this. For a while. I mean, like we said, we might go back and talk about season 1, and if there's a revival, maybe we'd cover that too, but we'll see. Yeah. All right, so Stacie can be reached at? I can be reached at on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk. If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join one of my Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a coffee.
You can join the Corn Productions membership for 99 cents a month. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to our channel. And of course, hitting the bell so that you get notified when new content drops. This is Dave and Stacie from Corn Productions, signing off.